Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm super happy to be with you. Today, I'm actually recording from the home of my business bestie, Kelly Schaefer of the Concierge Academy. And it's really funny because I started to record and her lawnmower people started mowing the lawn right outside of where I'm recording. So I thought I'll wait a few minutes, and just when it seemed like the coast was clear, I went to go hit record again. And then the weed whacker guy came along. So anyway, I am really happy to be finally recording in what I hope is some silence here. Today we're going to be talking about comparison, because that can do a really big mind job on us. And I think it's really important for us as we're growing our staging businesses to recognize when we're doing it and have some tools to counteract the really, frankly, negative feelings that comparison can bring up. And I'm wanted to talk about this because it has come up in both my private coaching sessions as well as inside of the Accelerate program. And I even just experienced it today myself. We went to the gym, and I am in the gym, and there are 3 other women, including my bestie Kelly, and I'm doing my workout program, and I love my workout program, and I always work out at home, and I'm following along, and I'm doing my weights. And today is a light day in our program because the last couple of days have been very intense weights. And then I'm looking around at these other women in the gym, and they are kicking butt with these heavy weights. And I had a moment where I was like, maybe I should step up my weights. Maybe I'm going too light today. And a little bit of starting to compare. Maybe what are they lifting with that exercise? Oh, I don't think I could lift that much, or whatever. I started going down that road, and I thought, oh, we really have to talk about this today, because I was able to kick into some strategies that I've learned over the years. So I'm going to share them with you. Before we dive into that, though, I wanted to share a very appropriate comment that somebody left on the Staging Sips survey, which was when asked about what aspects of the podcast they like. They said, oh, so many. The pricing advice episode was major helpful to me. That was the episode about capacity. So if you go back and you look about strategic growth and strategic halts for that episode, we'll put that link in the show notes. That's the one that they're referencing here. But I'd say the encouragement and reminders of the need for stagers definitely keeps me going when I'm feeling sluggish. And I'm so glad about that, because so much of it is really encouragement and mindset. And this is no different, this episode. So let's dive in. So recently we had talked about this inside of the Accelerate program, and I shared this with one of my private coaching clients. And it's the 4 stages of competence to learn anything. And I'm going to break this down for you, because this will become very, very helpful for you to understand this as you're growing your staging business. Because growing a staging business is just like any other skill set that you are going to develop, and you're going to go through these 4 stages of competence. And it's important for you to know where you are in this hierarchy, so that when you encounter a business owner who is beyond you, and kind of like I had said at the end of our last episode, my business has been able to run our systems now for 7 or 8 years that most of the systems have been solidified. So we're really operating on autopilot at this point. So the systems and processes that I share with you have been tried and trialed so much to the point that now they're very seamless. They're in the true fabric of the organization. So I don't want you to use the podcast and what I share about my business as a way to beat yourself up. I want you to understand where you could potentially go when you go through that fix-it protocol as you start, solving problems for your business. But basically, what I'm sharing with you is that there are 4 stages of competence, and I'll tell you where my business is in most cases. So the first stage of learning any skill set that you will encounter in your business very likely is going to be the unaware and unable phase. This is also known as unconscious incompetence. And when we think about unconscious incompetence, what that really means is that the individual does not understand or know how to do something and does not necessarily recognize the deficit. They may deny the usefulness of a skill, and it's very difficult sometimes to understand your own incompetence or the value of a new skill before you can move on to the next stage. The length of time that an individual spends in this stage depends on the strength of the desire to learn. And I'm just literally reading this from the 4 stages of competence for you. So if you go and Google this, you're going to find this as well, because I'm just reading right from, it's like on Wikipedia right now, but I thought it encapsulated it so well. So that is your unaware, unable stage, or your unconscious incompetence. The next phase is unaware and able, or conscious incompetence. This means that you understand that you need to do something and you recognize the value of it, but you also don't necessarily know exactly how to address the deficit that you have. So when we think about, our staging businesses, for example, in terms of these 2 stages of competence. So from unconscious incompetence, it might be that you start your staging business and you're thinking purely about the act of staging. I know I certainly did. I envisioned that I would be decorating houses for people. I was not aware that most people didn't know what staging was, that I would have to become a marketer first, and I didn't really know how to market a staging business in the beginning. So that was unconscious incompetence. And I didn't know necessarily what steps I should be doing first. I had to do a lot of educating to do that. You may be in the same situation. Then when it gets to conscious incompetence, that's when you open up your business and you start telling friends, and then you assume that your calendar is automatically going to get booked, and then you realize, you understand, oh, I actually have to do more than that, and then I need to go figure out how to do it, right? So there's the conscious incompetence. So that's when you maybe start sending out an email, but it's sporadically. You're not sending it out on a regular basis. That might be that you attend multiple networking groups that aren't necessarily right for you. It could mean that when you deliver your service, you don't realize that you need to account for extra time in your pricing for sourcing and, picking up, right? Like, so if you are renting a U-Haul truck for your vacant stagings, you have to make sure that you are accounting for the rental of that at the front end of the process and the back end of the process to pick things up. You may not realize how much storage space you might need. There's like all sorts of things like that, but you begin to learn them. So the third phase is conscious competence. So this is when and this is also called aware and able. So you're aware of what you need to do, you're able to do what you need. So this is the individual understands or knows how to do something. It may be broken down into steps, and there's heavy conscious involvement in executing the new skill. However, demonstrating the skill and knowledge requires concentration, and if it's broken, they lapse back into incompetence. I actually described this to our Accelerate students with learning how to play guitar. So this is the point of learning how to play guitar, when you know how to play a song, but you really need to heavily focus on where your fingers are landing on, the fretboard in order to produce the right notes. It requires deep concentration in order to get that done. So conscious competence inside of your staging business could be, from a logistics standpoint, maybe now you know that you need to have a Google Calendar that's accessible for your entire team, and you know what kinds of information you need to have inside that Google Calendar, and everybody knows that they need, that is where it happens, but yet you still get asked questions occasionally, like you may forget to put it in the calendar, or the team forgets to look to the calendar, so they text you first because that's what they've always done. This is when you're in conscious competence. So you know how to do it, you are aware that the skill is there, but it requires a lot of effort on everybody's part to use it. And then you get to the phase of unconscious competence. This is unaware and able. This is when a guitar player, to use that analogy, can now play a song and they can actually be singing the song, but they could be thinking about their to-do list for the next day. What are the logistics? What am I going to eat tonight? They could even be playing a song and having a conversation with the audience at this point. They don't need to think a thing about what they're doing because it has become so ingrained that now their effort is unconscious, it's seamless. So this is what the definition is. The individual has had so much practice with a skill that has become second nature and can be performed easily. As a result, the skill can be performed while executing another task. The individual may be able to teach it to others depending on how and when it was learned. So this is when your systems and processes are so ingrained in you that every time you do something, you're doing it the same step-by-step way, and you don't have to think about every single step to get it done. It is just completely now in your unconscious awareness, and you are able to execute. So why am I sharing all of this with you when it comes to comparison? I think it's really important to understand that we're all on our own journey and our own path through the stages of competency. And when you look at what another business owner is doing, whether that is out on social media or in their processes or how many jobs they're booking, you don't really know at what level they are at inside of their business. We can only go back to what's inside of our business. So that is one way to start to neutralize the comparison. So for me today, going back to that example of being in that gym and looking around and being like, God damn, these girls, these women are really killing it with these weights, and I don't even know if I can do those weights. Part of me went back to, well, first of all, my program today, the instruction from my trainer was, we are going with your lighter weights today because we are going for a longer period of time. We were going through 3 rounds of reps and we were doing them progressively for longer periods of time. So she wanted us to get to exhaustion through length of time, not how heavy we were lifting. So that was the first thing I had to remind myself of. Secondly, I needed to remind myself that I had no idea what other level of training or how long these other people had been training for in order to have built up the ability to use the weights that they were using. I also had to remind myself that in the past, when I have pushed myself too quickly to heavy weights, that I have pulled my back out, and that I have, knock on wood, wherever, I have been in my exercise period for quite a while now and not pulled my back out. So it might actually be best for my body to not push beyond a certain level of weight, too quickly. So I went through all of these kind of thoughts in my brain because I decided I was going to choose intentional thoughts. So when we are in comparison, we're actually choosing unintentional thoughts. Those are what Brooke Castillo calls our unintentional models. And the model, if you remember, you go back to the beginning of the podcast, episode 1 talks about how to get way better results. And that's where I share with you the results triad, goodness, the results triad, where that results triad is your knowledge, your beliefs, which is encompassed by your thoughts and your feelings, and then your actions to get your results. So that's based on Brooke Castillo's model, where she talks about circumstance, which is people are exercising. For me, if I'm going to use my model, people are exercising. My thought about it was, ooh, it looks like they're doing way more than me. The feeling was inadequacy and doubt about myself, and am I pushing myself hard enough? Those were all kind of that. So, those were my thoughts, and my feelings were essentially, inadequacy, and maybe feeling like I was, I don't know, maybe just not good enough, right? So that was a feeling. If I stayed in that, my result could have been, I could have upped my weight, and then I could have hurt myself. I could have not been able to continue with the workout. I could be way too painful in pain for tomorrow's exercise or the next day's because I don't know what my trainer has planned next, right? So those could have been my results. But what I did was I chose, that was my unintentional model. My intentional model was people are exercising. My thought is, oh my gosh, these people are amazing. That's so inspiring. And I'm so happy that I'm a part of, I'm sitting here amongst people who are taking care of themselves. That's inspiring. My feeling was inspired, and I trust my trainer, and I'm going to follow the path and the plan. The result was I had a great workout, and my muscles were beautifully exhausted. I hit my maxes just like she said we would with our lighter weights because of the amount of time we were doing. And I had a great workout, and I felt great afterwards, and I felt proud of myself, and I felt proud to be in that community. And the reason I wanted to share that with you is because I realized that that is a result of the mindset work that I have done around this, and you can do the same thing. And even if you have to do it around this podcast and some of these episodes, because I've definitely had my students and people reach out to me to be like, oh my God, your business is so organized. I don't know how I'll ever get there. Trust me, it was not for a really long period of time. What you are hearing now is that our business is at that unaware and able, or that unconscious competence level of our business at this point with so much of what we do. So when I'm sharing this with you, I want you to just kind of be in that place where I am with looking at these people who are, maybe further along in their fitness journey than I am. Even if we're the same age, even if we've been working out at the same time, for whatever reason they are further along, I'm able to look at it now with the, wow, that's inspiring. Look where I could potentially go. And I'm okay right where I am, and I need to stay the course of right where I am so that I can eventually get there, because there's a process to get there, right? I have no idea anything about their background. So I wanted to kind of give you all of that. So the first thing is, when we think about creating intentional thoughts for ourselves, first we have to realize when we're experiencing unintentional models for ourselves and unintentional thoughts that we can counter. Our brains lie to us all the time. And especially because when people are presenting things like I'm presenting to you the final result of working through systems over and over and over again in my business, I am sharing with you the result of trying systems that didn't work, then going back to no systems. So being in my aware and unable phase with my team, being in the aware and able, and then slipping right back because things didn't go well. I'm the result of taking somebody who was a paper calendar person to have to train them to get to become a Google Calendar person and even use their phones, because they never really use their phones for any of that, or email apps or all of it. Like, I'm not necessarily sharing with you that grind. I'm sharing with you the lessons learned from it. So I went through the grind. Wherever you are, wherever you're feeling like just like your business isn't dialed in, I promise you, I have been there with you. And what I'm sharing with you is the solutions that I came up with, but the results of it. So the first is just to recognize how harmful being in comparison mode can be for you, because your brain is serving up a story that you only have a portion of the insight into and portion of the perspective into, right? So I think that's the first thing to think about. And the other thing is just to be aware of what triggers you in comparison to others, especially when it comes to social media, conferences that you go to where there are speakers who are maybe more advanced business owners than you are at this point in your journey, and podcasts just like this, right? So just to identify, like, what are the trigger points for me? Because that actually, if we go back to the fix-it protocol, those are things you can put on your fix-it protocol, your list of ideas that when you have time in your business that you want to dedicate to resolving this, identifying where the points of comparison are the most painful for you are really probably guides for like, oh, okay, this just tells me that if I'm listening to this business owner tell me about how dialed in all their systems are, this just tells me that I really want to be able to put systems into my business. I hope all of this is making sense because I'm really going very unscripted today. But the other thing is that which I did in that example of the gym, was reframe the comparison. So using comparison as a motivation to learn from others and to set goals for yourself, just like that. Put it on the fix it protocol so that you can be like, okay, I just heard in Lori's podcast about how I could be using a free thing to grow my email list that will help me grow my marketing. I'm going to put that on my fix it protocol so that when I have time, I'm going to look into what are the free lead magnets I could be using, and start kind of coming up with ideas, or listen to more podcasts that she has about how to use that in order to market my business. Don't beat yourself up for not having it. It's a thing to say, okay, in the future when I have time, that's something I want to prioritize, because it was really triggering for me to hear like she's got this free thing running in the background of her business, and it puts people on her email list every day that become potential clients, right? Like if that is a trigger for you, that is definitely something that I want you to use as motivation to learn and set goals for yourself, right? The other thing is I think when we have these moments of comparison, again, using my example, what was my focus was my strength, right? So I have worked out many times over the years, many programs, and I know for me, what I know about my body is when I challenge it too quickly and with too heavy a weight, my back will get thrown out, which derails what I'm doing. And from an ego perspective, I'm not going there again. I'm not going back to that. I am protecting the Achilles heel of my body, which is my back. So I don't ever need to lift weights that heavy in order to be healthy, right? I can go around and look at all kinds of exercise gurus who don't use weights at all and are incredibly fit, right? Like, so I can reframe the comparison in a way that I lean into the strengths and the knowledge I already have. You can do that in your business as well. So when you find yourself in a moment where you want to compare your business negatively or your results negatively, I would love for you to reframe it and be like, but wait a second. Look at where I've come from. Look at what I've accomplished. Look at what I've done. Look at what I've learned. Look at what I'm continuing to learn. If you're tuning into this podcast, you are continuing to grow and fill your brain all the time with great new learnings. That does not go away. You pack all of that in your business suitcase and you take it with you, right? It's on a rolly cart too. It's even easy, right? It's easy to take with you all of these learnings and teachings. And practice gratitude. Be like, dang, I am so happy that there are people in this world who are showing me that I can get these results in my business, that I can do this in my business. I'm in a day and age, women in this room, if you're a woman in this room right now listening to this, that I can run a business and be a business owner in this day and age. I was just watching the movie about Ruth Bader Ginsburg's story, and just the stark contrast between what in my lifetime, women weren't allowed to get business loans until I was like 10 years old, like maybe even older. I mean, that's bananas, right? So practicing gratitude about where we are in our journey, where we are in our path, that there are people willing to share what they're doing and what they've learned so that I know it's possible for me. Like, have gratitude for like that, what's possible for you. It's amazing. And the last thing I want to say when it comes to comparison is it happens to all of us and that you are not alone in it. So if you have felt comparison in any way, shape, or form about anyone's business or your own business and felt shame or guilt, we've all been there. But I just want you to know that your brain is serving you up a story that is not helpful. That is not helpful to your results and what you want to achieve. So if you want to achieve great things in your business, and if you want to achieve an organized, systematized, operationally like tight business, you are going to have to counter your brain and put better thoughts inside your brain when it comes up, and practice for them, plan for them. If you know this is something that you struggle with, and for me, again, I'm going to go back to my exercise analogy. For me, showing up and staying in a workout, especially when I start back to exercise, can be extraordinarily hard on my brain. My brain wants to tell me all kinds of things. This is too hard. You don't need to be doing this at your age. Just give up. It hurts too much, whatever. And I have to plan for what my prefrontal cortex is going to tell my mac and cheese brain, my primitive brain in those moments. I have to plan ahead for it. So if you know that comparison is a challenge for you, and it triggers you when you feel like somebody else is doing better than you, I want you to plan to replace those thoughts. How can you strategize now so that when your brain serves up a negative thought around your business in comparison to someone else's or anything, or your results, that you have a way to counter it? So plan for it. So this was a big sip. It was a bit of a big, maybe a ramble for you, but I hope that I have broken this down so that you can understand the levels of competence that each person goes through as they are learning a skill set. And like I said, your business is no different, so that you can kind of diagnose where somebody else might be. But also, I hope I've given you some new tools today to get through the comparison monster if it hits you, just like it does everybody else. With that, I want to leave you all with that sip for the week. We do still have a private coaching slot available. We will put that in the show notes for you. So if that is something you are interested in, fill out that application so that we can get you rolling, so that you are getting the results you want inside your business. All right, everybody, bye for now.